for Sunday, June 29th to Saturday, July 5th. So last week, of course, we were settling into Cancer season. We were trying to kind of recoup from that solstice activation. And of course, things got pretty intense with that new moon in Cancer that popped off on the 25th. It definitely ruffled some feathers. It definitely illuminated some emotions that we didn't even know was alive and well underneath the surface of our awareness. We were essentially going through the purge point, the releasing point, that of course having Jupiter be a part of that sun-moon trio activated, because we're closing the chapter on the last 12 years. We are opening up a brand new chapter for the next 12 years. And of course, with the emotional junk and gunk and residue lingering from the old world, the old version of self, the old chapter that we just closed, we had some cleansing and purifying to do. And I think we all got a little bit of an emotional taste of what that detox, cleansing, purifying energy was all about. Of course, not only did we have that new moon pop off, not only did Jupiter magnify the intensity of that particular new moon, but not only 24 hours later, we had Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, ruler of information, communication, how it is that we express ourselves, move out of the 29th critical crisis karmic degree that he sat at underneath that new moon in Cancer. We had Mercury shift into Leo energy. And as I come to you here Friday evening, first of all, thank you for being here in the chat. We're still adjusting to this particular transit because, of course, it's fresh, it's new. We need a little bit of time to acclimate. And here earlier today, we had the moon and Mercury come together for an activation in this Leo energy that, of course, has us anchored into this heart space. We have a new passion, new desire, new truth, new ideas, new vision for the future. We just have to build the boldness, the bravery, the courage, the confidence to execute on said plan. So this brings us into this week. And of course, this week coming at us, we have a brand new month. July is swooping in, bringing in a brand new vibration, frequency, new life lessons, new chapters, and we're wasting no time because we, on the 2nd, will be having our very first quarter moon popping off in Libra energy. So first of all, we have this lunar cycle that began under the new moon in Cancer just a couple of days ago. We're finally reaching the action point, the pivot point, the decision point, if you will, which is kind of ironic because Libra energy is hella indecisive. We're looking for peace, harmony, and balance with that Libra energy. Are we going to find it? Probably not. We're going to find extremes in order for us to inch our way back to a new middle ground, a new compromise point. Fun fact about this first quarter moon coming at us in this Libra energy, it's actually going to throw us into a 36 plus hour void where the moon is concerned. We literally have this first quarter moon pop off. The moon goes void, of course, and this again is all on the 2nd, and we don't lock into Scorpio energy until the 4th. And y'all know what Scorpio energy is about. Let me be very clear. This past week, we had a 33 plus hour void. That's when things got hella shaky, unstable, uncertain, throwing us into that dark void of the new moon. That's why there was an extra layer of intensity. Well, this week, we are being thrown into this, I'm going to call it pivot point, this decision point, this action point. And again, the irony there is that the Libra energy is hella indecisive, teeter-tottering, pros and cons up the yin-yang. And so for us to reach that very intense point, that breaking point, if you will, to push us into a new path, new direction, and spoiler alert, humans typically need to have their backs against the wall, need to literally have a breakdown before they're open-minded and open-hearted enough to try something new. So just keep that in the back of your mind. But to be thrown into another void that is going to last essentially for like 2+ days, this is a little bit interesting, especially seeing how we shift into that Scorpio energy. And again, nobody really enjoys Scorpio energy because of the shadow work that we have to do. But this time around, we are in Cancer season. We're already in a water season. So to have the moon in Scorpio this time around, first of all, probably won't be as intense. Probably going to be more on detoxing the emotions that are currently lingering, that's still kind of holding on for dear life. Whatever it is that our minds can't process, our bodies are going to get triggered and activated to purge. And that is essentially where it is that we are going to find ourselves midweek. Now, to add a little bit of fuel onto the fire here, on the 4th, we're going to see Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, worth, pleasure, and money, leave her rulership in Taurus energy for Gemini. And this is going to be an interesting dynamic, and I can't help but to think that there's some sort of common thread tying back to 2020. Why? Well, because Venus retrograde in that Gemini energy at that time definitely kind of shook up, if you will, relationship dynamics, shook up our ability to communicate our actual wants, needs, and desires in relationships. And the interesting part, if you remember in here in 2025, is that Venus already retrograded. She spent her time in both Aries and Pisces energy. She has been in her rulership trying to anchor and stabilize in her heart space to get grounded and realistic about the pivot that did take place in her heart space. What has been lacking is us actually verbalizing the changes and transformations that have been taking place within us. And there is a high probability that when Venus shifts into this Gemini energy, all of the truth that we've been biting our tongue on, that's going to come out to play. All of the resistance and hesitancy for us to kind of be open with our thoughts and our feelings, especially in relationship dynamics, because we wanted to avoid being the bad guy in somebody else's story, that stage of the game is likely over. There is a genuine curiosity to experiment and explore, especially with our communication, with our truth, with our fullest expression of our new worth, our new values, our new wants, needs, and desires. So I would expect that towards the end of the week, especially having Venus sit at that 29th degree in Taurus energy, which is a critical crisis karmic degree in her rulership, before she gets catapulted in this Gemini energy that, of course, is going to highlight the dualistic nature, the choices of trying to keep the old alive while still asking for the new to manifest. That is going to be a very interesting dynamic for us to watch play out, not only on the greater, grander global stage, but in our own lives as well. Now, that is not the only thing going on, especially even that day. Later, we have Neptune, which is the higher octave of Venus, going retrograde in this Aries energy. So this is a pivotal point in the calendar that I talked about in great depths in our 2025 year ahead overview, because all of these heavy hitting planets that we were eager beavers ready to see move on and move forward into new signs, here they are. We busted into this new world, this new earth. We all realize at this particular juncture that guess what? We weren't as well prepared or equipped to kind of do what needs to be done in order to manifest the new goal, vision, and dream of this new version of self. And so what happens? We got to go inward. We have to kind of rearrange a couple of things. We have to kind of take a good look at what it is that's still lingering, that of course is not resonating with this new version of self. And we have to do what needs to be done to bring it to an ending and a closure. And of course, you know, later on in the fall, we're going to have these heavy hitting planets, specifically Neptune and Saturn, retrograde back into the Pisces energy that we were sitting in at the beginning of the year that we were eager beavers ready to kind of put behind us. We're going to go back in that Pisces energy. That's when we have to continue to dissolve the old version of self, that old belief system that has us stuck to doing the same old thing, and essentially deconstruct the systems, structures, and foundations that are still alive and well that belong to the old version of self that aren't doing us any favors in trying to build the new realm, the new reality. So we definitely got a lot going on. When Neptune retrogrades, essentially the bitch slap comes from the universe It knocks those rose-colored glasses off. Whatever we've been running from, whatever we've been avoiding, whatever we've been resisting, we have no choice but to face. This is us trying to wrap things up because, again, between this Pisces and Aries energy, this is merely trying something new, trying something different, and then going back and realizing that we have to make adjustments, either removing and releasing aspects that are no longer working, or make those adjustments in our inner realm to support the new version of self that, again, will have a lot more support in 2026. This year, 2025, is a year of 9. It's a year of endings and closures. It's a year of exploration and experimentation. We are definitely going to be doing the cha-cha-cha, backpedaling, if you will, to move inward to see where it is that, again, our belief system, our intuition, our dreams, our psychic abilities, our creativity needs a little bit of refinement. The vibe of this new version of self is being clouded out and kind of confused by the lingering residue of that old world, that old version. And so we definitely have some shadow work to do. May I also just kind of sprinkle in here that this is going to be the last full week of Uranus, the Great Awakener, being in Taurus energy. So he's going to be sitting at that 29th critical crisis degree. And yes, you would be right in saying, ooh, well, does that mean that Uranus and Venus are going to conjunct before they both move into Gemini energy? And yes, you would be correct. That is going to be a banger all in itself because you have to expect the unexpected where Uranus is concerned. He kind of infuses us with a rebellious type of mood and attitude to detach from whatever has us stuck, whatever has us anchored. We've been sitting in this energy for years now, taking us back to 2017, 2018-ish. And it's been a hard go. Uranus has been desperately trying to free us and liberate us from the physical, materialistic constructs that we have built and created either consciously or unconsciously. And Taurus energy, being a fixed earth sign, was holding on for dear life. And we don't know what to really expect with Uranus moving into Gemini energy. We kind of explored this in the 2025 year ahead overview as well. Yeah, we can take reference points to the last time that this happened, which was, lifetimes before the life in which we're all currently living. But the planets were all doing wackadoodle things at that particular time, especially in comparison to where everything is at now. So it is definitely going to be overwhelming, definitely going to put a lot of pressure on our communication, put pressure on raising the level of awareness and consciousness in the collective. And again, we don't get very far in that Gemini energy before Uranus retrogrades and runs back to the Taurus energy that we're currently sitting in. So just wanted to sprinkle that in there because the intensity that is going to be building throughout the course of this week because of that placement, sitting at that 29th degree in preparation for this major transition into Gemini energy, that is going to be playing in the background. That is definitely going to have a major effect on our energy, on our, let's call it reality, that will be taking place here this week. So we got a lot going on. We knew that we would. We're in a very pivotal time here, especially now that we're in Cancer season. We're in this new karmic chapter. The solstice energy has basically lit a fire in our heart space, head space, and under our ass in a lot of ways in order to kind of get shit done and to rebuild, restructure, rearrange whatever isn't working into something that we can rely on, something that we can trust, something that can support us and encourage us in moving on and moving forward, building not only this new identity, but the goals, the visions, the dreams that come along with it. So we are definitely putting different spins, different lenses, different perspectives on what currently is. And we are going to be tested, challenged, if you will, to flip the script on a lot of the things in which we are currently kind of banging our head against a wall about, to come up with some solutions. And we are going to be experiencing those solutions coming at us hot and heavy here over the course of next week, likely through realizing what we can't do anymore, what we can no longer pour into, what we no longer want to experience. So, of course, with all of that energy building, you can expect that we have a long list of Ascension symptoms that will likely pop off because of it. But before I jump into the Ascension symptoms, I just want to take a second to thank you. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for liking, for sharing, for commenting, for dropping emojis in the comment section below, especially over the course of these last 2 weeks. I don't know if y'all are aware, but YouTube is rearranging their algorithm once again. And I think that if you're a creator or no creators on YouTube, they're definitely going to see that their numbers have been effed with. Now, I understand that I pulled my daily videos off and I put them on Patreon. I understand that. I understand that there was going to be a dip in the numbers, in the viewership and all of that. I understand that. However, over the course of just this last week, it has dropped significantly, ranging from like 12 to 1,500 views per day down to 300. Okay, so even my preview videos that I've been putting out there average around, 2 to 350 views per day, which isn't great, but it's better than nothing. And now I'm below 100. So, the constant support that I'm getting for the interactions on my videos, it is greatly appreciated just to keep me alive and well here in the algorithm, because I know that they are definitely pushing a lot of AI. They're pushing a lot of faceless content as well. And that is really doing a number for those human, alive creators that are still trying to do something, trying to be something, trying to introduce information to the world. We're definitely getting beat up, we're getting broken down and spit out in a lot of ways. So I just wanted to thank you for showing up, for continuing to be here, for interacting with these videos in whatever way you find comfortable. I really do appreciate it. And of course, I thank those of you that have made the jump over to Patreon. We're definitely building something a lot bigger, a lot stronger over there. And of course, if you want to do a deep dive in this energy work and astrology work and being able to kind of protect yourself or at least work through some of these energetic shifts the best way that you can, there's a lot of information, a lot of resources over on Patreon that could help you out, specifically with the Ascension symptoms that we are about to talk about. So we're going to start from the top and work our way down. Now, the crown chakra, which is at the top of the head, we've been going through major upgrades and we have had a lot of head issues, but there's a difference between the head issues being activated by the crown versus the third eye. And the crown is kind of quiet. Now it's semi-calm. I hate to say that because every single time that I do, it seems that there is an intensity in the Ascension symptoms that pop off the minute that I say that something is calm. What I mean by this is that we're not really in receiver mode. We have received the information that we now need to process, percolate on, and piece together. And so there may still be pressure in the head. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But as far as receiving information from the collective, from the higher realms of intelligence, that's kind of shut off for the moment. Now, it's going to be momentarily because essentially, yes, there's a lot going on in this next coming week, but we spend the majority of it in a void, in an emotional void. So there's not a whole lot of mental or let's call it metaphysical processing going on as much as there is embodiment and trying to sort through our emotions. So the headspace, there are activations coming at us this week, and I'm going to explain it in this way. It's almost as if the information that we've already received, we're rapidly processing through. We're trying to kind of, put the pieces together. Just as there are moments of insight and clarity revealed, just as there's like this aha moment, this like beautiful epiphany that suddenly we know what we need to do or what we should do or how to do it. The minute that it invokes this excitement or this reassurance or this hopefulness is the exact moment that our minds are going to go blank and we are not even going to be able to hold on to that thought that we were just excited about. This is going to lead to some intense mental aggression towards our own brains, okay? Because it's like bewildering. Like, how can you feel like a brilliant genius one moment and then an absolute dumbass the next, right? That is just the oxymoronic type of situation that we're going to be experiencing here this week. And it's going to lead to a lot of mental fatigue. Like, our brains are tired. Our brains are literally full. We can't take any more information in. We have to process what we've already received and kind of purge and detox what isn't really snapping, what isn't clicking, what's not serving a purpose. But those moments where we're in this brain fog where we can't even remember our name, let alone, common words to the common things that we do every day, it's a dazed and confused type of energy, where all of a sudden there are these, snap, crackle, pops, synapses of the neural pathways of the brain starting to make sense of something. And then the immediate worry or confusion or spaced out disassociative state that we find ourselves in. You may find yourself just, staring off into the distance or staring at a wall or totally just disconnecting from reality altogether. And although you're not really thinking about anything specific, something is happening while we're in that spaciness. We may not receive, let's call it, the big picture right away, but all of these finer details are somehow being pieced together, thread together in a way that we receive this clarity, and then all of a sudden it's like the MIB stick gets kind of clicked, that flash just erases our mind altogether, and it feels like we're starting from scratch. So that's going to be I'm going to call it interesting, because we are essentially receiving bits of information, details, insight, and clarity that we haven't had previously. But to not be able to put it into words and not be able to remember it and not be able to actually work with it immediately in the way that we want to, that's going to be very frustrating for many of us. And, when we talk about the third eye, there is going to be a sensation that it feels like you're wearing like a headband or a hat. You know how when you wear something on your head for a very long time and then you go ahead and you remove that, but the sensation that you're still wearing it is still kind of there? It's going to be that kind of vibe. And you may even find that it's itchy or that it's tingling. There's some sort of sensation happening around the forehead, around that third eye. And, it could even manifest in invisible type of evidence, meaning maybe you break out, maybe you get a pimple right on your third eye. Maybe there are visible wrinkles that weren't there yesterday, or anti-wrinkles. Maybe the wrinkles that were always there are suddenly smoothed over. Maybe there's just a discoloration, a spot, if you will, an irritation. Something is drawing energy into that third eye. And again, you have to remember that when the skin erupts, that's the last line of defense that makes it visible for us to see of what's going on in the inner realm. And because we're kind of piecing all of these things together and we're trying to make sense of things that don't make sense, it does make sense that we are going to have third eye activations. And so we want to pay special attention to the sensation or the visible evidence, if you will, that there is something going on. Our third eyes are popping. The intuition and our intellect are trying to work very hard together to make sense of things, and that there is going to be this, I want to call it some sort of like halo event. The best way I can explain it is that the pressure of wearing a hat is going to still be felt even when you're not wearing said hat. So let's pay attention to that. The eyes, I want to talk about the eyes. So we're not seeing clearly. And I want to give you this particular analogy. When you've been swimming, let's say in a pool with chlorine or in the ocean with salt water, whatever the case may be, when you spend a lot of time swimming, your eyes become dry and sore. And it's oxymoronic thing because, of course, you're in water, but it actually stings. And especially if you're in chlorine or salt water, you're definitely going to feel that intensity even more. What I'm getting at is that there's a sensation taking place here this week where our eyes feel like they're burning. They feel dry. They feel squinty. They feel tired. And a lot of this is because, again, we're in a water season. We're trying to essentially look through the water. Now, if you ever opened your eyes up underneath the water, you would realize that things are kind of vague. They're not detailed. You can't really pinpoint what you're looking at. But the longer you keep your eyes open, the more they start to burn, the more they start to sting. And I would say that the sensation, especially like the squintiness, the heaviness, the tiredness, can also compare to a very long day staring at a computer. And, at the end of the day, your eyes can barely stay open. They're kind of watery, they're stinging, they're burning, they're just uncomfortable. And we are definitely going to have that particular sensation take place as we try to piece together the epiphanies, the revelations in our intuition and in our intellect. We're trying to squint to see if we can see it, right? Out in our physical realm, we're trying to squint to see if we can see some of the revelations and epiphanies that we're receiving in our higher mind. I want to talk about the eyelash line for a second. So when I say that the eyes could be burning and sore and, kind of twitchy and all of those things, yes, that is a thing, but I want to talk specifically the itchy part of the eyelash line. And if you've ever had this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's not something you can just rub your eyes. It's almost something like you want to take your fingernail and just kind of drag it across that eyelash line in order to try and itch that just doesn't seem to want to go away. And we have to consider the fact that, first of all, our eyelashes, the whole point of them is to protect our eyes from debris. We also have to understand that that eyelash line where the eyelashes actually meet, your skin, your physical body, there are tear ducts there. There is a very sensitive mucosa there as well. And we are very sensitive. We're hypersensitive in this Cancer energy. And the itchiness is a sign that something is healing. So our vision, whether it be our eyeball vision or our third eye vision, something is healing. Something is trying to grow and expand and formulate, but it's not there yet. Thus why we feel this squinty type of energy, because we're really trying to see it. It's almost like when somebody says, oh my goodness, do you see like the face in the cloud? And you're really focusing on the cloud and you're trying really hard and you're squinting, you're closing one eye, you're closing the other to try and see what they're seeing. Sometimes you're just not ready to see what could be very much in front of you. Or it's not in front of you at all, and you're just super hella hopeful that if you squint hard enough, if you just, tilt your head the right way, that suddenly you're going to see something that maybe was, trying to get your attention. There is nothing formulating on the horizon this week. We want it to. We're squinting to see if there's something around the corner, but we're not going to visually be able to make sense of it or piece it together here this week. But that itchiness on that eyelash line is definitely going to give us a good go. Let's move down to the nose for a second. Of course, there's always sinus issues. There's always some sort of sniffling or congestion when that third eye activation is coming in hot, coming in strong. This week, I think that it's going to be one-sided. So maybe you can breathe out of one nostril over the other, pay attention to what side. That's going to give you hints and clues on what you're kind of struggling to process. Even more than that, though, there's a sensation, when you get bubbles up your nose or you drink a carbonation type of drink and all of a sudden like your eyes go squinty and you feel like you're going to sneeze and it's all up in your nose space, that's going to come out of nowhere. And there's going to be this very uncomfortable sensation pop off because, again, the third eye is working overtime trying to make sense of a lot of intuitive and metaphysical concepts that we're not having any evidence or proof of in our visual field, in our materialistic realm. And so there's a lot of processing going on. There's a lot of activation going on. There is a lot of activity going on in that third eye space that is definitely creating physical sensations to let us know that something's going on, but there's not going to be an actual reason in our physical realms for it. So if you're experiencing that and wondering what the F is going on, blame it on the energy. I want to bring you down to the mouth. So Mercury is now in Leo energy, and as beautiful as that is, it is a fire energy. And this week, I think that we're all going to have this weird sensation that comes after you burn your mouth. So when you bite into something hot, of course, it scorches the roof of your mouth, but it also burns your tongue and it leaves a vulnerability, a rawness, if you will, in your mouth. It could hurt your teeth. It could make your gums sensitive, but it's like this funky film that lingers for a day or two sometimes, depending on how bad you burn it, in your mouth. You don't need to actually burn your mouth this week to have those particular sensations. I think that the fire energy building in our mouths and our throat space, stemming from the heart activations that we're having, stemming from the truth that we want to speak, the ideas that we want to share, I think it's building up. And I think it is kind of bubbling over, so to speak. And I think that not only is it going to be an issue in the inside of our mouths, but I think our lips are going to feel like they're burning off of our face. And I don't think that there is enough chapstick in the world to correct or to comfort or soothe the kind of dryness that we're going to be experiencing with this energy coming at us here this week. Now, it's going to kind of flow over into the throat. And the throat has been an issue, again, kind of overflowing into that neck space as well, just because we've been really leaning towards trying to avoid something, not see something, or overextend our neck to see something. It could go either way. The throat, I think, is going to be itchy. I think it's going to feel swollen. Your glands, like in your throat, could be inflamed. I feel like there could be a raspiness to the voice, to the tone, to the vibration and frequency of your normal voice take over. And I think it's going, and I know this is going to sound weird, your throat is going to feel fuzzy. And I'm not sure if that's going to translate. I'm not sure if that even makes sense to anybody else but myself. But it just feels like there's a fuzz in there and everything is just shaky in that throat space. And again, there is a lot of clearing, a lot of raspiness because the vibration and tone and frequency that we are now kind of sitting in, because Mercury is in Leo energy, we want to be heard. But there's a resistance and a hesitancy to actually express oneself fully. This is the whole life lesson of Mercury being in this Leo energy. And so, that whole concept of like speak your truth, even if your voice shakes, that is very much a manifestation here this week. And for whatever reason, it's just going to feel a little bit raw, a little bit raspy, a little bit fuzzy in that throat space. So taking us down to the chest. Now, we're in Cancer season. We're doing a lot of emotional processing. And of course, there's some Leo activations, and that means the heart is being activated as well. But here's the thing. I don't think it's going to pop off like we are used to, meaning I think we all know at this particular juncture what a heart activation feels like. I think it's going to be more of a lull, meaning we are energetically exhausted. Okay, from the emotional processing, from, being so hyper aware of ourselves and of the energy moving through our bodies and of the thoughts and the emotions taking over and trying to make sense of it all and trying to, be, I'm going to say, a boss and try to override a lot of the sadness, a lot of the grief, a lot of the emotions that we wish that we weren't experiencing. We're trying our best. And I think that's exhausting. And I think we're at a particular point where the exhaustion is definitely going to get the best of us, especially on particular days that we have, again, sitting in that darkness, sitting in that void for over 36 hours is likely going to ruffle some heart activations. But I think that this is going to lead to disassociation. I think that there's going to be a high level of having to disconnect from reality, from the physical body here this week, just for us to maintain our shit. Meaning, we don't want to fall apart. We don't want to have a mentee be. We don't want to be a blubbering, crying mess. We don't want any of that. But we're on the verge of it. It's literally like you can feel yourself tear up and that lump in your throat appear out of nowhere. Again, throat activations, heart activations, they're all connected. You can feel that, and we go to great lengths to stop that, even though sometimes we should just lean all the way into it and get it out. For some of us, it would be very detrimental right now if we gave ourselves the permission slip to fall apart. Okay, sometimes you just can't afford to fall apart. And I think that the easiest way to avoid falling apart is to check out. Now, I'm not supporting it. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying that the energy is likely going to push us into a state where disassociation is safer than staying present and aware in a body, in a situation, in a circumstance that is so overwhelmed with mental plane and heart activation energies that it feels like we're going to break. I just, we don't want to, I don't want to promote. Yeah, okay, just check out of your body. But you know what? If checking out of your body is going to save you from ruining your own damn self, let's all disassociate together, right? Doesn't make it right, doesn't make it fun. However, with the huge void that we're going to be thrown into, and then with Neptune retrograding, you want to talk about like delusion and detachment. The Neptune energy is the escape artist of the zodiac. And, Neptune wants us to live in La La Land. Delulu is in fact the Solulu sometimes. And we are definitely going to make that manifest here this week. It is also going to mean that when we disassociate from our reality in our waking life, that we have to process what it is that we're not processing when we're awake in our sleep state. And our sleep state, I don't know if y'all have noticed, but it's been a little bit different since we moved through that solstice energy, since we moved into Cancer season. We knew it would be, but we're still adjusting. We're still adapting to this new dreamscape. And I think that for the most part, our sleep state is going to throw us into some dream content to emotionally process what the mind and the body is not willing to do. Thus, the disassociative state that many of us are going to find comfort in here over the course of this week. But this means that, of course, there's going to be some emotional dream content. This means that our dreams are likely going to trigger and activate emotions in that dream state that we essentially tried to run and avoid and hide from in our waking state. And so we're going to wake up kind of like an emotional mess. And it's going to be hard to wake up, especially in that void that we will be sitting in. And specifically when Neptune retrogrades as well, the sleep state is going to change again. When we wake up from these particular dreams, when we have a hard time waking up from the emotional processing that we had to do in our unconscious state, there is a level of what I'm going to call euphoria that takes over the better part of our day. We aren't quite here, but we're not there either. And the state, again, just highlighting the void that is alive and well between reality and illusion is going to be very vast and very deep and very profound here this week. And so many of us are going to be experiencing a lot in our dream state that spills over into our waking state that we are not going to want to sit in, anchor in at all throughout the course of this week. Now, considering the fact that we start the week off with basically, it starts off, the moon is in Leo. We transition very quickly into Virgo energy starting here on Sunday. The lunar phase takes us through Virgo energy, which wants to focus on the problem so we can fix it, heal it, repair it. We move into that Libra energy. We immediately hit that first quarter moon and then get thrown into the void for 2 days. And we are going to end the week off with the moon in Scorpio. So when I say to you that the dream state, the detachment, the disassociation, the delusionment is going to come to a sobering reality check here towards the end of the week, when the moon dives into that Scorpio energy, it is time to do the shadow work, okay? We can't run from it. We can't hide from it. We have to dig all the way into it. We have to change it, transform it, alchemize it into something that works for us instead of something that is working against us. So with the transit of the moon taking place here this week, there is going to be some severe bubble gut issues. Okay, so we're in Cancer season. Cancer season holds on to a lot of worry, a lot of anxiety, a lot of nervousness. We are essentially trying to distract ourselves from our own damn problems, our own damn lives by throwing ourselves into other people's situations and circumstances, all under the guise of trying to be of help, work, and service to help other people, which is going to absolutely backfire in our face, as it should, because when you run and hide from your own damn problems, they will manifest in your energy and efforts of trying to distract and help other people. It will get thrown back into your face so that you essentially come back to yourself. Understand where those boundaries should have been built, implemented, and respected, where you shouldn't have crossed those boundaries into somebody else's circumstances, and where you should have stayed in your own damn lane. The stomach is going to just be a knot. Why? Well, Cancer season already puts the bloat on. It already gives us like gassiness and discomfort that way, because when you emotionally process at the rate in which we are doing, the nerves in our digestive system are all on guard, okay? There is a high probability that there's going to be such discomfort in our stomachs here this week that we're not going to know what to do with it, thus supporting us to disassociate and detach from our reality. There's going to be gut distension, bloat, gas, bubble guts. It could come out one way over the other, or it could just stay in there, but nauseate you to the fact that you wish it would come out. The moon in Virgo always affects the gut. The Libra energy, if it wasn't a first quarter moon and putting the pressure and putting the, I'm going to just call it intensity on us to choose to decide, if we didn't have that, we might get a little bit of relief. But of course, we have that first quarter moon popping off. It is go time. And then we get thrown into the void. And that is going to feel very disassociating, very dizzy, very euphoric. That's not going to help our bubble guts any. And then once we find ourselves with the moon in Scorpio, it's time to detox, baby. It's time to purge. Time to let that shit go, literally and figuratively speaking. And so we're definitely going to have to contend with a very not happy stomach space here this week. I want to take you down a little bit further because there is going to be some dysfunction, some discomfort popping off in our reproductive systems as well, specifically towards the end of the week when we have all of these major activations and then the moon in Scorpio gets activated as well. We're holding a lot of emotional tension, a lot of emotional pain and trauma in those areas of our body. And this is getting triggered and activated again to get released, to get detoxed, to get purged out of our system. But when we find ourselves down in that particular arena and area of our body, that is when the survival programming, the pain and trauma repressed in our cellular memory comes out to play. And that can manifest in a lot of pain in our lower back. You could have pain in your tailbone, not being able to sit on your butt properly. You could have sciatica kind of pop off, tremors pop off as well. May I also remind you that Cancer season that we are currently in sits across from Capricorn season that kind of rules over the physical structure of our bodies. The restlessness, the energetic and emotional processing that we're going through, our inability to take action and make moves in the way that we would want, it's all being kind of gunked up, being pressurized for us to keep it all in. And so the, I'm going to call it the activation of the survival programming where the pain and trauma is trying to come out and we're trying to do our best to keep it in because we don't want to lose our shit. Again, figuratively, literally speaking, we are holding a lot of tension in our bodies that is going to affect our lower extremities. And so restless leg syndrome, Charlie horses, tremors, maybe your kneecaps are popping out. Maybe you are going to twist your ankle. We are holding fear. We are holding restlessness. We are holding agitation in our lower extremities. And of course, we have to experience that discomfort, that dysfunction in order for us to bring awareness to that particular part of the body for us to trigger and activate what could be causing this, energetically speaking, in order for us to do the mental and emotional and spiritual work, the shadow work to unpack why that energy is stuck in that particular area of the body. And so I think that that is probably going to add a little bit of frustration to our situation as well, because we have to go slow. Many of us want to hit that fast forward button right now and kind of move through this discomfort and find ourselves in a happier place, but you can't. You have to feel it in order to heal it. And many of us just don't want to be doing that particular work. Now, I did mention the sleep state. I want to talk about the sleep state in just a different type of context here. We have moon activations. We have North Node activations this week. We have Neptune activations. We have heart activations. We have mental activations. Because the dreamscape is shifting, is changing, let me also say that there's going to be memories unlocked. Now, this could be memories unlocked in your dreamscape that either belong to you in this incarnation or could be from previous incarnations, or you could literally be walking through your waking state and suddenly have memories flash back again, either from this incarnation or previous ones. This is ancestral memory. And again, we're in Cancer season. This is where we have to heal the generational trauma. This is where there is ancestral assets and dysfunction being triggered and activated in our DNA to have those memories resurface so that we can do the healing work for our family, for our lineage. Does it feel fun? No, absolutely not. But we signed up for this. This is why we're alchemists. This is why we're able to handle the energies in the way that we are handling them. Does it feel fun? No, not supposed to. These memories are going to unlock different vibrations and frequencies in our DNA. And eventually, probably not right away, but over the course of these next couple of weeks, these memories, whether they belong to us or not, whether they are in this incarnation or not, whether they are ancestral, whatever the case may be, however they manifest for you, because we all have different soul contracts that we're here to help heal. We're not all on the same journey. We're on the same boat, but we're all having very different experiences. This is eventually going to unlock new intuitive and spiritual insight. Things are going to start making sense on a multitude of levels. This is also going to unlock new psychic activations. So your psychic abilities, we're all psychic. So if you think that you're not psychic, please do not be lying to yourself. We all have intuition. We all have instincts. We can all connect to the collective. We are all energy, and we all have psychic gifts and abilities. And those are being jacked up. We are essentially leveling up in those psychic abilities. And a lot of the memories that are being unlocked, either in an unconscious state or in a conscious state, are a major contributor to what is now coming online. And of course, this is going to push us into a new level of awareness, a new level of consciousness. And once you know, you can't unknow. Once you know better, you gotta do better. So guys, I'm taking a look at my list. I feel like I have checked everything off that I wanted to talk about. It's just going to be a very interesting dynamic for us this week because first of all, we have that void that I talked about. We have some major heavy hitting planets on the move. We have some transitions that we're going to be going through. We have some planets sitting at that 29th degree, which is never a joke. But realistically speaking, when you look at the inner planets, and the inner planets are technically responsible for the highs, the lows, the everything in between that we experience on a day-to-day, we have Mercury, Venus, and Mars all being kind of aspected in not favorable ways here this week. Like none of them are having fun. We're going through some very tension-filled growing pains. And when you take a look at what they're doing individually and what they're doing together, it just screams that this void that we are going to be sitting in midweek for the 2-day span that nobody should ever be sitting in a void for that long for, it's going to definitely ruffle some feathers. It's supposed to, in order for us to gain a different perspective. But at the same time, usually there are some helpful interactions that kind of balance these particular dips out. This week, there's a lot of dipping, and they're dipping in a non-favorable way. And we knew that the first part of Cancer season was going to be like this, so we shouldn't be surprised. However, when we move into the following week, that is where we kind of hit that 15 degree. That's when we're in that halfway point. That's when, we're going to have a full moon in Capricorn. So I think you could probably piece together that a lot of the agitation, irritation, frustration that we're currently sitting in and building will be removed at that particular juncture with a breakthrough point as per usual when it comes to full moons. But karmically speaking, cardinal seasons are never fun. They're not supposed to be fun, but we are supposed to receive the triggers and activations needed in order for us to realize that something's got to give, something's got to change. We can't continue doing things the way that we've been doing them. And this week is definitely going to open our eyes, our physical eyes, our third eye, our metaphysical eyes to different options, different possibilities, different opportunities that we haven't seen thus far. Now, is it going to come in a shiny little box, kind of, wrapped up with a beautiful ribbon? Absolutely not. It's going to come from shit hitting the fan for us being frustrated with our own damn selves. And again, finally realizing that we've been doing the same old thing, getting the same old thing, and we just need to spice things up. So I thank you so much for tuning in. I send you so much love, and we'll talk to you soon.